Welcome back to the channel, everyone. So if you've been wondering what's going on with the Camaro, well, it's not there. In my last video, I briefly touched on the incident I had with the door dent, which happened due to my own fault in my own driveway. I don't really want to talk about that anymore. I don't like telling that story. If you really want to see it, check my last video on the Camaro. Suffice it to say, I dinged my own door. I checked with my Paintless Dent Removal guy that I had used before, and he got back to me and said, well, first of all, he said, well, it's an older car. You know, the metal's thicker. There might be a brace in the door, which might be in the way, which turned out to be partially true. I ended up taking the inner door panel off, and there is a horizontal brace right across the area where the dent is. But there's a gap between the brace and the door where you can get in there to pry out the dent. And I know I've seen these guys, they have their skinny little narrow tools that can get into tight spaces. So didn't really think that would be too much of an issue. So then he came back and told me $1,100. And I was just like, my mind was blown, because I couldn't imagine. I mean, it's a small dent. Anyway, so I knew I wasn't going that route. Oh, and also he said he couldn't guarantee he'd actually be able to get it all the way out. He wasn't confident, so I said, forget it. So then I contacted my insurance company, which is Haggerty, and told them about what happened. And they said, okay, well, you have collision. It's a $500 deductible. Doesn't matter if it was your fault or someone else's, it would cover it. So then they said they would send me an estimate, what they thought it was going to cost to fix based on pictures I submitted to them. And then I could also get my own estimates. So I think that's at that point. So the first place I brought it to said it was going to be like $3,700. And I was like, again, I was completely blown away, because they said the whole side of the car had to be painted, but still, that seemed like a lot, you know. So then I found another place based on a recommendation from a friend, and they said they could just paint the door for $500, but then I was concerned about the paint matching. So anyway, let's rewind back in time about 3 weeks, and that will pick up where we left off with this saga. And by the end of the video, we'll have the outcome. And yeah, so stay tuned for that. So I got an estimate from Haggerty on what they want to, on what they think the repair should cost. And then I also got an estimate from another auto body place in the next town over from me, and it was actually pretty close. The guy, you know, seems like he's into the job and he knows what to do and how to get this done right. So heading over now to drop the car off. It's Monday morning. I don't know how long it's going to take, but that's okay. So what he's going to do is just the door. He's going to just focus on the door. The last place wanted to paint the whole side of the car. That's going to cost a lot more. This guy's pretty confident he's going to be able to get the paint to match just doing the door and then polishing out the whole side. So we'll see. I mean, this is not a high dollar show car. It's just a driver quality old Camaro. It's not, we can't expect perfection, I guess. So dropping it off now, and then I guess hopefully in a few days we'll hear something, and see how it turns out. Oh, it's the car in the front. Okay. Okay, we're back home and just looking everything over. Looks really good. I mean, I don't really see any overspray. I think what he told me was they ended up painting the whole side, and then, okay, so the paint on the car was single stage. What they did was two stage with the clear coat. So then they ended up clearing over the top because there's no break in the body. And then also clearing this rear quarter. They must have polished the rest of the side because I don't remember that being that shiny. I mean, looks good. I mean, this is the best the car has ever looked since I've had it. And they did a nice job on the door. Nice and smooth and straight. No ripples. Did a nice job. So initially this guy had told me $500 just to do the door. And I said, well, what about, you know, blending it or whatever, doing the whole side? And he said, well, that would be more like $1,500. But then once the insurance got involved, and I guess, I don't know what happened, honestly. It ended up going way over his estimate, but Haggerty covered it. He was in direct contact with them and they worked it out and it's all good. I had to pay $500 as the deductible. So yeah, well, it was an expensive, stupid, costly mistake, but I'm trying to be more careful now. It's not easy for me. So anyway, car's looking good. The fan, you know, right before I had dropped it off, I had changed the fan switch back to the original stock fan turn-on switch, the cooling fan, because, you know, I had gone through several different ones from eBay, Amazon, even I got one from SK Speed, Paintless Performance. None of them worked right. Either they would never turn on, or they would turn on too early, or they would turn on and then never shut off. So now I've got the original one back in, which works, but it doesn't kick the fan on until it gets to about 235. It's crazy, the stock turn-on temperature. And then it runs for a few seconds, it gets it down to like 230, and then it turns off. So I'm not really happy about that, but I don't know what else to do. If anyone out there has found a fan turn-on switch that actually works at a lower temperature, please let me know. A lot of people told me, no, the computer controls the fan. This is not true. That was true in the later years, maybe probably 85 and newer. But in the 84, when you got the HO engine option, the 305 HO L69, it came with an electric cooling fan, and there is a sensor switch that is mounted. It is screwed into the head, the cylinder head, on the passenger side of the car towards the rear, and it's got a little thermal contact built in, and that's what controls the fan on and off. It goes from there to the relay, which is on the firewall on the driver's side, and that's what runs the fans. I haven't been able to find a proper switch that works right. So anyway, lesson learned here. You gotta be more careful. But I'm glad it's fixed. It looks better than before, so I'm happy about that. So, oh, and while it was at the shop for 3 weeks, the AC charge completely ran out, which I don't understand because, you know, it held vacuum for, you know, they say it should hold vacuum for at least 30 minutes. It held vacuum way longer than that, but it's got a leak. It's got a pretty significant leak, and I have no idea where it's coming from. So, yeah, I don't know if I'm gonna even bother checking into that. Summer's halfway over, but I don't know if I'm gonna need to bring it to a shop for that or start, you know, with the UV dye and all that. I had done that last time I had the issue when I first charged it a couple of years ago. I didn't see any UV coming out of anywhere, so it could be the condenser. It could, well, kind of could be the condenser, which is partially blocked. It could be the evaporator core, which is, you know, inside the HVAC box. That could be leaking. It could be any of the hoses. I don't really know. You know, it's always something with this Camaro, but I'm trying. The door panel and armrest and everything back on. A little dusty. I'm just gonna clean it. Interior is looking a little dusty and dirty, so add that to the list. But I'm glad this saga is finally over now. Next thing I'm going to do is, you know, I had done all this to the engine compartment. I had a couple of months back in the spring, I had removed all the smog stuff and changed the water pump, painted up some of the front of the engine, the brackets, changed the intake, ran a new fuel line, new air cleaner, but I never got around to like cleaning the rest. I had done this a few years ago, but it's looking all grimy and dirty again. So I got some sprays and a brush. I'm just gonna start cleaning this up a little bit. This would be like for the more heavier stuff, and then this is for the more mild areas, I guess. Yeah, so that was pretty quick and easy, and I think it looks much better. It looks like it did take some of the red paint off, so if you have like a really nice car, probably don't use harsh cleaner, like the one I used, the spray 9, I guess. Probably should have just used the simple green, but you know, some of it had already started coming off anyway. But overall, looking pretty good. When I had first dropped the car off at the paint shop, the guy had told me, he said, "Oh, you got a coolant leak," which I was surprised because when I brought it there, I don't remember a coolant leak. But then when I drove it home, I did find a puddle of antifreeze, but then it turned out the cap was, I don't know, maybe it was my fault. The cap was just not on correctly. It was basically just sitting on top of there, so that's I'm pretty sure that's where it was leaking from, so I put that back on. So hopefully everything on the car now should be good to go. Hopefully try to get to enjoy it a little bit finally, but who knows, next time I drive it there could be another problem. So I'm gonna wrap this video up. Thank you for watching, and please subscribe, please comment, and I will see you next time.